The sleek vessel Harmony of Worlds glided through the darkness of space, its pearlescent hull gleaming under distant starlight. Inside, 12 representatives of the Galactic Council's most advanced civilizations lounged in comfortable chambers designed to accommodate their various physiologies. "We have detected unusual energy patterns from the nearby star system," announced the ship's AI in a melodious voice. "The signatures do not match any known civilization's technology." Ambassador Trell, a tall being with iridescent skin, raised a slender hand. "Record the findings and mark the system for future study. We have more pressing matters at the Council Summit." The AI complied, but continued monitoring the strange signals. Hours later, as the diplomats dined on synthesized delicacies, the ship suddenly lurched. "Warning! Unknown vessels approaching at high velocity," the AI reported, its harmonious tone now sharp with urgency. On the bridge, Captain Krav, a stocky blue-skinned pilot, frantically worked the controls, shields at maximum, attempting evasive maneuvers. 3 dark, angular shapes appeared on the view screen, moving with impossible speed. They didn't respond to any communication attempts. "Their design matches no known species," said First Officer Miri, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "I cannot detect any life forms aboard." The first hit came without warning. A beam of strange energy struck the Harmony, passing through its advanced shields as if they weren't there. Ambassador Trell rushed to the bridge, stumbling as the ship shuddered again. "How is this possible? Our defensive technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." "Unknown," Captain Kraft replied, voice tight with fear. "We've lost engine control. Weapons systems are not responding." Another blast rocked the ship. Lights flickered and smoke began to fill the bridge. "We need help," Mary said, blood from a cut on her forehead dripping down her face. Captain Krav nodded grimly. "Prepare a distress call. Send it to all Council worlds." "The communication array is damaged," the AI reported. "Long-range transmitters are offline." "Use the emergency beacon," ordered Trell. "It's our only hope." Miri worked quickly, her 6-fingered hands dancing across the controls. "The beacon can broadcast on all frequencies, including the primitive bands no civilized species has used for centuries." "Do it," Captain Krav commanded as another hit sent a control panel exploding in a shower of sparks. The message was simple: coordinates, a brief description of the attack, and a plea for assistance. It went out across the void, traveling at faster than light speeds through subspace channels monitored by advanced worlds, and also through old radio frequencies, electromagnetic pulses, and other ancient forms of communication that the Council considered obsolete. Through the view screen, they watched as one of the attacking ships extended a strange appendage toward them. "They're cutting through the hull," shouted an engineer. Captain Krav stood tall, facing the inevitable. "May someone hear our call?" The final transmission from the Harmony of Worlds cut off abruptly. In its wake, silence spread across the stars, but not complete silence. The distress call continued to echo, traveling outward in all directions, across all frequencies. Most civilizations had long abandoned monitoring the primitive channels it also broadcast on, considering them technological relics of a bygone era. Except for one young, still developing species on a blue-green planet in an unfashionable arm of the galaxy. A species still savage enough to expect the worst, prepared enough to monitor old frequencies, and just curious enough to listen to the stars. A species called humans. Deep in the mountains of Colorado, the distant signal monitoring station hummed with activity. Most of the equipment was outdated by global standards. Other nations had long ago abandoned these old frequencies for more advanced communication methods. But the United States still maintained this listening post, partly out of tradition, partly out of paranoia. Jack Morris rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the computer screen. Working the night shift meant lots of coffee and very little action. He was about to take another sip when an alarm blared, causing him to spill hot liquid on his shirt. "What in the world?" he muttered, quickly tapping keys to identify the source. The signal was unlike anything he'd ever seen, structured but alien, repeating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Most importantly, it contained mathematical patterns that couldn't occur naturally. Jack pressed the emergency button, summoning his supervisor. "This better be good, Morris," grumbled Director Anna Wells as she entered the room, her gray hair disheveled from being woken up. "Ma'am, you need to see this. I think it's a distress call. From space." Wells leaned over his shoulder, skepticism written across her face. But as she watched the signal patterns, her expression changed. "Get me the Pentagon. Now." Within 48 hours, representatives from every major nation gathered at the United Nations. The signal had been decoded enough to confirm its nature, a distress call from a ship under attack, with coordinates pointing to a location 20 light-years away. In the Grand UN Assembly Hall, heated debate filled the air. "This is clearly a hoax," insisted the French delegate. "No spacecraft could reach those coordinates in less than centuries with our current technology." The Russian representative nodded in agreement. "And if it is real, why should we risk human lives for unknown aliens?" Jack Morris, invited as an expert witness, stepped up to the microphone. His voice was steady despite his nervousness. "We have one option that might work," he said. "Project Horizon." Murmurs spread through the hall. Project Horizon was the experimental spacecraft developed jointly by several nations, utilizing theoretical physics that most scientists still considered questionable. It had never been tested for a journey of this magnitude. The Horizon could reach those coordinates in approximately 3 months using the gravity drive. Jack continued. "It's a risk, but someone out there needs help." General Laura Chen, the project's military overseer, stood up. "The Horizon is not combat ready. It's a research vessel with minimal defensive capabilities." "But it's all we have," Jack replied. "And if we wait for something better, whatever sent that signal will be long gone, or dead." The UN Secretary-General called for a vote. Hours of debate followed, with many nations arguing against what they saw as a foolish mission. But in the end, humanity's curiosity and compassion won out by a narrow margin. 2 weeks later, at a secret facility in the Nevada desert, the crew of the UES Horizon prepared for launch. Captain Lisa Reed addressed her team of 30, a mix of scientists, engineers, and a small security contingent. "We don't know what we'll find out there," she said, her voice echoing in the hangar. "But we do know that someone called for help, and we answered. That's what humans do." As the sleek, experimental ship rose from Earth on a column of blue flame, news broadcasts worldwide covered humanity's first official mission beyond our solar system. Many called it reckless, others called it noble. Across the galaxy, the advanced species of the Galactic Council received the distress call on their sophisticated channels. They analyzed it, discussed it in their grand chambers, debated the strategic implications, and ultimately did nothing. The risk was too great, the reward too uncertain. Only the primitive humans, with their outdated technology and impractical emotions, actually went. The UES Horizon cut through the darkness of space, its experimental gravity drive humming with energy that bent the fabric of reality around the ship. Inside, the crew of 30 had settled into a routine over the past 2 months, but tensions remained high. Captain Lisa Reed stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by on the main view screen. She was young for her position, only 36, but her calm demeanor and quick thinking had earned her this command. She brushed a strand of brown hair from her face and turned to her science officer. "How much longer, Dr. Marcus?" Dr. Tom Marcus looked up from his console. Unlike the captain, he hadn't adjusted well to space travel. His face was pale, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "The coordinates from the distress signal should be reached in approximately 6 days, Captain, assuming the drive holds." The gravity drive was the source of many arguments on board. The scientific team wanted to run constant tests and adjust parameters, while the military personnel insisted on stable, predictable operation. These disagreements had only grown more frequent as they ventured farther from home. In the mess hall, Security Chief Mike Dawson sat with his small team of 6 soldiers. They were the only armed personnel on board, a fact that bothered Dawson greatly. "I still say we should have brought more firepower," he said, stabbing at his food. "We're heading toward a confirmed attack site with little more than standard rifles." Lieutenant Jen Parker, his second-in-command, shrugged. What good would heavy weapons do against something that could take down an advanced alien ship? Besides, this is supposed to be a rescue mission, not a military operation. "Tell that to whatever destroyed that ship," Dawson muttered. The days passed slowly. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Ray Wilson worked tirelessly on the drive systems. The gravity drive was pushing far beyond its tested limits, and strange readings appeared with increasing frequency. "We need to reduce power," Ray told Captain Reed during their daily briefing. "The spatial distortions are getting stronger." "Can we still reach the coordinates?" she asked. "Yes, but I can't guarantee what shape we'll be in when we arrive." Reed nodded. "Make the adjustments. I want us in one piece when we get there." On the 6th day, the horizon dropped out of its gravity field near the coordinates from the distress call. The sudden return to normal space made several crew members ill, but all systems remained functional. Barely. "Scan the area," Reed ordered. The bridge fell silent as Dr. Marcus worked his instruments. The view screen showed only empty space at first, but as the sensors swept outward, objects began to appear. "Debris field detected," Marcus announced. "Metal composition. Unknown. Design clearly artificial. Temperature signatures suggest the destruction occurred approximately 3 months ago." Reed leaned forward. "Any signs of survivors?" "No life signs detected," Marcus replied. "But there's something else. Some of the debris is moving in a non-random pattern. It's being pulled toward that moon." He pointed to a small, cratered satellite orbiting a gas giant in the distance. Security Chief Dawson, who had joined them on the bridge, frowned. "Something's collecting the wreckage." "It appears so," Marcus said. "And based on the radiation patterns, whatever attacked the ship came from that moon." Captain Reeves stood up, her decision already made. "Set course for the moon. Maintain distance, and passive scans only. I want to know what we're dealing with before we make our presence known." As the horizon moved cautiously forward, Engineer Wilson's voice came through the comm system. "Captain, the drive needs at least 24 hours to cool down before we can use it again. If we need to make a quick exit, we'll have to rely on conventional engines." Reed acknowledged the warning, but her eyes remained fixed on the mysterious moon growing larger on the view screen. "If someone survived that attack," she said quietly, "they've been waiting for help for 3 months. We didn't come all this way to turn back now." The horizon approached the moon, carrying its human crew toward a danger none of them could fully comprehend, but which they would face together, with the unique blend of curiosity, caution, and courage that defined their species. The UES horizon settled into orbit around the barren, gray moon. Through the viewports, the crew could see its cratered surface, unremarkable except for one feature, a massive dark opening that looked like a wound in the lunar landscape. "That's no natural formation," Dr. Marcus said, examining the sensor readings. "It's an artificial excavation, at least 3 miles wide." Captain Reed called a meeting in the ship's conference room. The key crew members gathered around the table, faces tense with anticipation. "What do we know?" she asked. Dr. Marcus activated a holographic display showing the moon's surface. The opening leads to a complex tunnel system extending deep underground. There are energy signatures consistent with large-scale mining operations, and, he hesitated, "we've detected faint life signs, but they're unlike anything in our database." "Survivors from the distress call?" asked Lieutenant Parker. "Possibly," Marcus replied. "But there are also other readings, stronger ones, that are even stranger. Not carbon-based life as we know it." Security Chief Dawson leaned forward. "So we're dealing with 2 different species down there." "That's my best guess," Marcus said. Captain Reed stood up. "We need more information. I'm authorizing a landing party." Dawson immediately protested. "Captain, we don't know what destroyed that alien ship. We could be flying right into the same trap." "That's why you'll be leading the team, Chief," Reed replied calmly. "Take Parker and 2 of your best people. Dr. Marcus will accompany you for scientific analysis." The small shuttle descended toward the moon's surface, landing a safe distance from the massive opening. The team stepped out in their environmental suits, weapons ready. The moon had no atmosphere, and their footsteps made no sound as they approached the entrance. "Stay alert," Dawson ordered, his voice tight in their helmet comms. The interior of the tunnel was illuminated by strange, pulsing lights that gave off a sickly green glow. The walls were smooth, cut with precision that human technology couldn't match. "These weren't blasted," Marcus observed. "They were dissolved somehow." As they ventured deeper, they began to hear sounds, mechanical clanking and a high-pitched whine that made their teeth ache even through their helmets. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with machinery. Moving among the equipment were the strangest beings any of them had ever seen, roughly humanoid in shape, but composed of what looked like living crystal. Their bodies glowed from within, changing colors as they moved. "What are they?" whispered Parker. Before Marcus could respond, one of the crystal beings turned toward them. It had no discernible face, just a cluster of glowing points where a head should be. It made a sound like shattering glass. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. More crystal beings appeared, carrying what were clearly weapons. "Back to the tunnel," Dawson shouted, raising his rifle. The first energy blast hit the wall beside them, melting the solid rock instantly. The humans returned fire. To everyone's surprise, their conventional bullets had an effect. When they struck the crystal beings, cracks appeared in their bodies. They're silicon-based life forms. Marcus yelled as they retreated. "Physical impact damages them." One of the creatures moved to block their escape. Dawson charged forward, slamming the butt of his rifle into its midsection. The being shattered into fragments that quickly began to reform. "They can regenerate," Parker warned, firing at another creature. As they fought their way back toward the entrance, they passed a side chamber. Marcus glanced inside and froze. "Captain, I've found the missing diplomats," he said into his comm. Inside the chamber were transparent containers holding various alien beings. Some moved weakly, others lay still. Beside them were other containers filled with processed materials, and with horror, Marcus realized they were extracting components from the living aliens. "They're not just miners," he said grimly. "They're harvesters, and organic life forms are their resources." A blast hit Marcus's suit, searing his arm. Dawson grabbed him, and they ran for the exit, the crystal beings in pursuit. "Horizon, we need immediate extraction," Dawson shouted into his comm. "And tell the captain we found the enemy. And they're unlike anything we've ever faced." Captain Reed's voice crackled through the comm system. "Dawson, what's your status?" "Under heavy fire," Security Chief Dawson shouted back, ducking behind a crystalline formation as energy blasts melted the rock around him. "We've found survivors from the Council ship, but they're being processed." Reed's response was immediate. "Hold position. We're sending the second shuttle with reinforcements." Lieutenant Parker fired her rifle at an approaching harvester, shattering its crystalline form temporarily. "These things don't stay down for long, Chief." 15 minutes later, the second shuttle landed outside the massive entrance. Captain Reed herself led the rescue team, along with the remaining security personnel and Engineer Wilson, who carried a heavy backpack. "Captain, you shouldn't be here," Dawson protested when they reached his position. Reed checked her weapon. "I don't send my people anywhere I wouldn't go myself. What's the situation?" Dr. Marcus, his arm bandaged where the energy blast had grazed him, pointed toward the inner chamber. "At least 12 alien prisoners in containment units. The harvesters appear to be extracting minerals from their bodies while keeping them alive." "Can we free them?" Reed asked. The containers have some kind of lock mechanism. I couldn't figure it out before we were attacked. Engineer Wilson stepped forward. Let me take a look. I brought some equipment that might help. Reed nodded. Dawson, your team will provide cover. Parker, secure our exit route. We move on my signal. The team advanced through the tunnels, using the mining equipment as cover. The harvesters, apparently unaccustomed to physical resistance, struggled to coordinate against the humans' tactical movements. In the processing chamber, Wilson examined the alien containers. These are sophisticated, but not complicated, he muttered, attaching a small device to the control panel. They use energy fields rather than physical locks. Inside the nearest container, a being with 4 arms and blue skin watched them with large, frightened eyes. We're here to help, Reed said, though she knew the alien couldn't understand her. She made a gentle motion with her hands, trying to convey their intentions. Wilson's device beeped, and the energy field around the container flickered and died. The blue-skinned alien stumbled forward, weak but alive. It worked. Wilson moved quickly to the next container. One by one, they freed the imprisoned aliens, beings of various shapes and sizes, all wearing tattered remains of what might have been formal attire. Some could walk, others had to be carried. A tall, slender alien with iridescent skin approached Reed and made a series of complex gestures. I think it's trying to thank us, Marcus said. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. The walls themselves began to glow with angry red light. What's happening? Reed demanded. Wilson checked his scanner. Energy buildup throughout the complex. I think we triggered some kind of security system. Or they're calling for reinforcements, Dawson added grimly. Reed made her decision instantly. We're leaving now. Dawson set the charges. While Wilson had been working on the containers, Dawson's team had been placing explosive devices at key structural points throughout the facility. What about the rest of the prisoners? Marcus asked, pointing to several containers they hadn't yet reached. Reed looked at the remaining aliens, her face reflecting her internal struggle. She turned to Wilson. How much time do we have? Minutes, maybe less. With a determined nod, Reed shouldered her rifle. Free as many as we can in the next 5 minutes. Then we move, no matter what. Working frantically, they managed to release 5 more aliens before the facility shook violently. Crystal fragments rained from the ceiling as more harvesters converged on their position. Time's up, Dawson shouted. The rescued aliens, seeing the urgency, helped each other as the humans guided them toward the exit. The tallest alien, the one with iridescent skin, picked up an injured companion without hesitation. As they reached the main tunnel, Reed looked back at the processing chamber where the remaining containers stood, still occupied. Her face hardened. Set the charges for maximum yield, she ordered Dawson. If we can't save them all, we can at least make sure this place never operates again. The mixed group of humans and aliens rushed toward the surface, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. The 2 human shuttles lifted off from the moon's surface, engines straining under the extra weight of the rescued aliens. Behind them, the massive mining facility erupted as Dawson's explosives detonated in sequence, sending plumes of dust and debris into the airless void. We've got company, the pilot of the second shuttle shouted over the comm. On the radar screens, multiple signals appeared, rising from different parts of the moon's surface. In the lead shuttle, Captain Reed helped secure the injured aliens. The tall one with iridescent skin touched her arm and made a series of gestures. I think he's trying to warn us about something, Dr. Marcus said, still nursing his wounded arm. Reed's comm unit crackled. Captain, this is Horizon. We're detecting multiple craft launching from the moon. They appear to be pursuit vessels. Understood. Prepare for emergency departure as soon as we dock, Reed replied. And get the medical bay ready for the survivors. The shuttles raced toward the horizon, but the crystalline ships of the harvesters were faster, sleek angular vessels that gleamed like faceted gemstones in the starlight. They're gaining on us, Dawson said grimly. The first energy blast struck the second shuttle, causing it to veer wildly. The pilot managed to regain control, but a second hit melted part of the engine housing. "We're losing power," came the desperate call. Reed made a quick decision. Evasive pattern delta. "We'll draw their fire while you make for the horizon." Her shuttle banked sharply, placing itself between the pursuers and the damaged craft. The harvester ships adjusted course, focusing their attacks on Reed's vessel. "Hang on," the pilot yelled as they spun and dove, narrowly avoiding the deadly energy beams. When both shuttles finally reached the horizon, they slammed into the docking bay with barely controlled landings. The ship's medical team rushed forward to help the injured aliens while Reed sprinted for the bridge. "Status report," she demanded as she took her command chair. "Harvester ships approaching from multiple vectors," the tactical officer reported. "At least 12 vessels, all heavily armed." "The gravity drive." Engineer Wilson shook his head. "Still offline. We need at least another 10 hours. "We don't have 10 minutes, Reed said, watching the approaching enemy ships on the view screen. "Conventional engines to full power. Get us away from that moon." The horizon began to move, but the harvester vessels quickly surrounded them, their weapons charging. "They're forming a blockade," Dawson observed, now manning the weapons station. "They know we can't outrun them." The first shots hit the horizon's shields, making the entire ship shudder. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "Shields at 60%, reported the tactical officer. "Their weapons are cutting through our defenses just like they did with the alien ship." Reed's mind raced. Conventional tactics wouldn't work against these technologically superior enemies. They needed something unexpected, something the harvesters wouldn't anticipate from primitive humans. "Wilson," she called to the engineer, "can we vent atmosphere from the rear compartments?" Wilson looked confused for a moment. Then his eyes widened with understanding. "Yes, but—" "Do it," Reed ordered. "Dawson, target their lead ship the moment we change direction." Wilson worked rapidly at his console. "Ready on your mark, Captain." "Everyone brace for sudden maneuver," Reed announced shipwide. Then, now. The explosive decompression of the horizon's rear compartments created a powerful thrust in the opposite direction, sending the ship hurtling directly toward the lead harvester vessel. The sudden movement caught the crystalline ships off guard. "Fire," Reed commanded. The horizon's conventional missiles, simple projectiles by galactic standards, struck the lead harvester ship before it could adjust its energy shields. The physical impact cracked its crystalline structure, just as bullets had affected the harvesters themselves. "Direct hit," Dawson shouted. "Their formation is breaking up." Reed leaned forward in her chair. "Target the next 2 ships. Use all remaining missiles." As the battle continued, the rescued aliens watched from the observation deck, their expressions showing a mixture of fear and astonishment. The tall, iridescent one turned to its companions, making those complex gestures again. None of them had expected these primitive humans, with their physical weapons and reckless tactics, to stand any chance against the harvesters. Yet here they were, fighting with a determination that defied all logic. And somehow, against all odds, they were winning. The UES horizon limped through space, battle scars visible across its hull. After their desperate fight against the harvester ships, Captain Reed had ordered a random jump away from the battle zone, putting as much distance as possible between them and the crystal beings. In the ship's conference room, Reed sat across from the alien diplomats they had rescued. After 2 days of recovery, most were well enough to communicate. The ship's computer had been working constantly to translate their various languages. The tall alien with iridescent skin spoke first, its melodious voice translated through the computer system. "I am Ambassador Trell of the Galactic Council," it said. "We owe you our lives, humans of Earth." Reed nodded respectfully. "We responded to a distress call. Anyone would have done the same." A ripple of movement passed through the assembled aliens, something like laughter, Reed guessed. "That is precisely what you do not understand, Captain," said another alien, a stocky blue-skinned being. I am Captain Krav. My ship broadcast that distress call across all frequencies in desperation. No council species responded. Reed frowned. But surely your own people would have sent help. Trell's skin changed color slightly, showing darker patches that Reed interpreted as embarrassment. The council operates by consensus and careful analysis. The unknown nature of the attack made any rescue attempt too risky by our standards. It would have been illogical to endanger more lives. The human crew exchanged glances. The concept of abandoning people in danger because of risk assessment was alien to them. Dr. Marcus leaned forward. So you're saying no one came because it was too dangerous? Precisely, Trell confirmed. Which is why your arrival was so unexpected. You humans, with your primitive technology and limited space experience, attempted what advanced civilizations deemed impossible. And succeeded, added Krav, a note of wonder in his translated voice. Captain Reed stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. I think I understand now. You called us savage earlier. That's how the Council views humanity, isn't it? Trell's skin rippled again. We have observed your species for decades. You still wage war among yourselves. You rely on physical weapons rather than energy manipulation. Your decision-making is influenced by emotions rather than pure logic. The alien paused. By Council standards, these traits are considered undeveloped. Security Chief Dawson laughed without humor. Those undeveloped traits just saved your lives. Yes, Trell agreed, surprising them. And this has forced us to reconsider many things. The alien rose and approached Reed. It was taller than any human, with graceful movements that made it seem to float rather than walk. Captain, the Harvesters are a silicon-based life form that views organic life as resources to be harvested. They have existed at the edges of known space for millennia, but we believe them contained. Their weapons and tactics were unfamiliar to us, designed to counter our advanced technology, but not designed to counter bullets and explosives, Dawson noted with satisfaction. Or human unpredictability, added Krav. No Council species would have vented atmosphere to change trajectory in battle. It would be considered wasteful. Reed turned back to face the aliens. So what happens now? Ambassador Trell's skin glowed brighter. The Council must be informed of the Harvester threat and of humanity's role in our rescue. I will recommend that Earth be offered immediate membership in the Galactic Council. Murmurs spread through the human crew. This was far beyond their mission parameters. Is that usual? Reed asked. Earth barely has interstellar capability. It is unprecedented, Trell admitted. But these are unprecedented times. The Council needs what humanity possesses: courage, adaptability, and the willingness to risk everything to save others, even those you do not know. Reed looked around at her crew. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, all working together despite their differences. She thought of Earth, with all its conflicts and challenges, yet still capable of uniting to answer a cry for help from the stars. We would be honored to join the Council, she said finally, but as equals, not as junior partners or savages to be civilized. Trell extended all four of its slender arms in what the translator identified as a gesture of highest respect. Not as savages, Captain Reed, the alien said, but as teachers. You have much to show us about what truly matters in this dangerous universe. As the Horizon set course for Earth, carrying its human crew and alien guests, a new chapter in galactic history had begun, one where humanity's so-called primitive traits would prove to be their greatest strength.